All right, welcome back to the PSA Sunday Sitdown, episode number 10. My good friend Alex Boffi. Alex, thank you so much for joining me. I'm excited to have you on here.
Thank you for having me. So number 10, does that mean that I'm the 11th most interesting person you know?
No, so in order to be the guest for episode 10, you have to be a 10.
Oh,
So,
thank you.
who's the best looking, RSM, who had to have his role backfilled for two people, because you were so good, they couldn't just hire one person to cover, Michigan and Ohio. It's like, oh, Alex would be a perfect 10th guest.
I'm actually the 25th, but the other 15 said that they didn't want to do it with you. So
yes,
you're
exactly.
stuck with me, right? Yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah. And, you should feel really honored because obviously, we're like all the Kawasaki folks. We've done a lot of things together, and you are the first Kawasaki guest on the Sunday Sitdown. So make sure to let, Johanna and Bon and, Zach know that you were my first text. So
I certainly will. I'm working on it right now. So
cool. Well, let's get into I would say the robotic side of things first. And then obviously, as you know, you've seen this podcast, it gets off the rails pretty quick. And that's the whole point, right? Because nobody grew up and said they wanted to sell robots forever. So, but before we get into the pizza and the guitars and the watches and all that good stuff, tell us a little bit about what Kawasaki's up to. Obviously I know a little bit, but what are you excited for here heading into show season, right? We've got IMTS coming up. We've got PACX. The summer's basically over. So what are you guys working on?
it's depressing. Don't say it like that. No, yeah, we're in the midst of a big time change in the industry. I mean, a guy that's clued in like you and the people that are viewing your podcast are obviously aware of that. We at Kawasaki really thrive on an open architecture platform. It's kind of been the way that we've been doing things with industrial robots since 1969. So Automate was actually our coming out party with a couple different technologies that we're really focused on that allow our customers, our system integrators, the end users to take advantage of that. It's really there's no path forward in locking down and making everything proprietary because robots are not going to be programmed the way that they've always been in the next 2, 5, 10 years. It's just not going to happen. So yeah, we're really focused on opening it up, giving all the tools needed to allow for low latency, real time control and communication.
Awesome. Yeah, I like it. And that was the one thing I noticed as soon as I got to Automate. The classic Kawasaki cell was retired, right? The cell that with the tool that could pick up it was picking up the pallet, it would pick up the bag or the box of dog food, it would pick up the bag of mulch, but the one thing I will say is you always ran at 100%, right? So for all those trade shows that that CP180 made it to, it was always running at 100%. I was shocked when I didn't see it there. But you also had a lot of cool stuff too, right? So was that exciting for you to kind of just unveil all these, cool new technologies there at Automate?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've been around our company long enough. Yeah, you've seen it, and you're probably almost as sick of it as we were. But you know what? That cell did a couple things really well. And that's the reason why we had it at shows like PAC Expo for as long as we did, because people, one, at a show like that, they're not as familiar with robotics as we are at a show like Automate, or some of the more industry focused shows like FabTech, where robots have been doing things with metal in the automotive industry for a long time, right? At PAC Expo, sometimes that's the first time that someone's seen a robot that close doing robot things very quickly, with a lot of impressive speed and power and all that. So what the cell did extremely well was it showed really, it gave a glimpse and it illustrated what a showgoer could do at their own facility. I mean, they're like, hey, yeah, I've got boxes and they're approximately that size. And yeah, I have to take the boxes from here and put it over there. Like, this makes perfect sense.
And I have bags and I have boxes. And
I have bags.
You can move the pallet too. That's cool. Yeah.
I've got a conveyor just like that. Yeah. And really that's kind of, it sounds so simple, but that's a really, really hard thing to achieve with the demonstration. If you can put a demo like that and people can see it and understand exactly what it does and how it fits into their operation without having to put a sign that explains what they're looking at, that's a chef's kiss as far as a robot demonstration. So it did that really well. And yeah, I think the funny thing is people would look at it and they see this big, impressive palletizing robot, which, to us in the industry isn't anything special, but they see it and it's doing all this stuff. And when you ask them, hey, what do you think a cell like this costs? I mean, the answers that came back, Josh, they're crazy. It's like
Yeah.
$1.5 million. And it's like, no, it's a robot, and it's actually a very cost effective robot, right? So
Yeah.
it's yeah, we're actually going to retool it. We have a new model coming out, a new palletizing model. It's got a higher speed capability, a smaller footprint. So
Nice.
Pack Expo, we're hoping to change it up and do something with that model. So
Cool. Yeah, I mean, that's a great point, right? Like Pack Expo and Automate are two totally different shows, right? Automate's the show where you go to, that's more of you go there to show all the new, the latest, the greatest, what people in our industry would want to see and be like, wow, that's cool. Nobody's doing that. And most of the time it's, very demo heavy cells, right? It's like, this works exactly like it will because it's a demo experience. And I know it's going to do this every single time. But it's not really, not that it's not applicable to the real world, but most of the time it's not, you don't see those, real world applications yet at a show like Automate. But at Pack Expo, very end user heavy show, people walking the floor. Like you said, oh, I've got boxes, I've got bags. To see the actual application running is pretty cool. And what's always funny is like, I take it for granted because I go to all these shows all the time, but like somebody from some random smaller food and beverage company might only get to go to PACX like once every 10 years, right? It's not like you're going every year, and all that. So I think it's kind of cool that to sit back and think like, okay, if this were my first Pack Expo ever, and I am a plant manager at XYZ company, you're going there because you want to see what you can do today, not because you want to see what some company that's been doing automation for 50 years is going to deploy next, right? So I think that's cool to see the real world.
yeah, you're 100% correct, and it's worth reminding ourselves of that when we go and talk to these people there at the shows. Is like, one, they may not be able to make it there very often. Two, they have very real needs when they come in and stop by the booth. And three, they may not be super familiar with what robots and automation do. And yeah, you better show something that's real at some of those shows. That's more the realm that like PSA lives in, right? Like you don't get to show science projects and then say, yep, coming soon to a place near you. You guys have to put it on the table. So yeah, Automate for us, going back to it, super fun show, industry show. It's not one that we target as much for real live applications, although we get those out of being there. But it's really a lot of branding exercise and showing new technologies and what we're working on. And yeah, I would say it's funny. I heard you dropping names earlier on, so I'm gonna drop names too. That Johanna and we've been wanting to do a show like that forever, where we.
And who is Johanna again?
Yeah, of course. I don't know.
Is she new?
No one in the industry has heard that name.
Is that lady that wears that red jacket all the time at these shows?
She's feeling spicy sometimes. No, yeah, Johanna's our very talented marketing manager at Kawasaki, and she is the queen at making the most out of very little sometimes. And but fortunately, we've got a great catalog of new stuff that we're showing. So Automate, we wanted to really get into. It's a term that I'm sure you heard no less than 36 times. Physical AI, and
Yeah.
we wanted to show all the crazy stuff that we've been working on, all the stuff that we've released, and debut a unit that actually we've sold a lot of over the last several years. We haven't come out publicly with it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think maybe this is a better question if I've got you and Johanna on before like Pack Expo, but it's like, how do you balance the strategy side of things? You on the sales side, Johanna on the marketing side, coming together to do some, real good work at these shows of saying, okay, I don't want someone to look at, a Kawasaki and say, oh, like, I've seen that a million times, but also like, you don't want someone to go to the Kawasaki booth and think that, you know, you're something that you're not, right? So it's what's the balance of trying to show something so super, that's super, I don't know, cool at the moment, right? Like I was just talking to someone else about, the last 3 or 4 automates, it's been, okay, one year it's, AMRs, the next year it's humanoids. Now, it was cobots were everywhere. So what's the balance of making sure that you're relevant to what's hot right now, but also reminding everyone that you've been doing this for years and, you build reliable robots that can handle all different applications?
Yeah, it's an excellent question, and truth is that I think both our marketing and our engineering team, which is no small component in pulling this stuff off, are much more rooted in reality, and the sales team is too. I mean, obviously, we have to go out there and sell things that we offer. We can't sell things,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. And everybody knows what they can and can't sell, right? So they know
Yeah,
what their partners and what their end users are looking for. So it's easier to sort of be real about that, right?
yeah,
When you're
and
at the
and I
show.
think I think really it stems the the fulcrum is the marketing department because they balance between the guys that say yes to everything, my team, and the guys that say no to everything, which is the engineering team. So I so yeah, I think for us, although we have a really well regarded, well known name, it's not typically always associated with robotics outside of our industry. So that's a challenge. So we have to consider branding as an exercise and how we're positioned. But yeah, it's always rooted in, these are existing technologies that Kawasaki offers. These are new ways that we're using them, and then these are the new things that maybe you haven't seen yet. And that balance shifts from show to show. Where Automate, it's all about showing the things that our peers, companies like PSA and other system integrators can use. Whereas Pack Expo, it's speaking directly to the end user, and FabTech, it's we've got a shifting strategy for that one too, where we find that the end users are looking for the path of least resistance to getting that stuff on their floor and operating. And
I
we
like how you use path there. Is that a welding shout out?
oh yeah, maybe, yeah, unintended pun. I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, we have a lot of experience with our own manufacturing needs and welding. So, if it works for us to make a motorcycle or an ATV or something like that, chances are it's going to work for a customer as well.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's the one thing that, maybe the other OEMs can't do, right? They can't say, hey, we eat our own dog food here by, using our own robots to build, on the motorsport side. And that was I think that was, and correct me if I'm wrong, it was the first time you sort of leaned into the whole, yes, everybody knows us because of, Kawasaki dirt bikes and, motorsports side at Automate this year when you had, I forget what robot it was, but holding up the dirt bike. Was that the
Yeah,
first time that you sort of leaned into that?
funny that that's a similar version of a bike that I have actually, a Kawasaki KLX 300. And at first I was like, oh, I'm pretty proud of my bike. It's still in pretty good shape. I'm going to offer it up. And I thought better of it with all the transport and crating and, all the hands that touch it. But yeah, it's not quite the first time. We've done it in Germany. They had an ATV at Automatica last year. We've also done, there's a company, Robotire, that we worked with to automate the changing of tires. We did that on a side by side at Automate in 2023, maybe. But yeah, it's kind of something that we forget about because we're in the day to day. That we should lean into that more because at the end of the day, we are a $16 billion company, 7 divisions, and we use robots to make everything in each of those divisions. So um,
Yeah.
yeah, when you look at it from the outside in, it's like, why don't we do that more often? So I think the idea was, even, if we have to have a static, that model that was holding it was static. It's a new model. It's an MXP, higher payload model. But if it's going to be sitting there, why not put a motorcycle on the end of it? So
Yeah, I like it. So does the top sales rep for the year get to keep that one?
yeah, I'd rather give it to one of our partners. So
Yeah, maybe
yeah,
whoever had the most scans at like Pack Expo 2021, maybe that person should get the motorcycle.
are you
That
planning
could
on
work.
being in our booth scanning or no? Yeah,
Oh, too
it's
funny.
it's funny. We used to have this awesome discount and everything, and
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe, with COVID, they couldn't make the things fast enough, right? They were selling
Sure, yeah,
fast as
yeah.
they were coming off the line. So maybe it'll come back here one of these days.
So you've got a dirt bike. Do you have the side by side too, or?
No, I don't. I live in suburbia a little bit. For so if people aren't familiar, Kawasaki's based in Wixom, Michigan. I live in Milford, which is approximately 12 miles north of here. We have a lot of parks and forests and lakes, and it's a great place to raise a family and everything. But the ORV trails are a good 2 to 2.5 hours away. And that means that you're pretty much making it on the weekends. So no side by sides for me. Lots of people have them here. I have my dirt bike is plated, so I can get from my house to work on dirt roads exclusively, and I like to bomb down those. And I'm rebuilding, actually restoring slash rebuilding a 78 KZ 750 twin right now that
Oh,
I got for $400. I picked it out of a barn. It hadn't been registered. I don't know how long it's been since it ran, but hadn't been registered for about 25 years. And that puppy roared to life this spring. So I'm
nice.
working on that too.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, gosh, we should have done that. I should just got some video of you riding your dirt bike all the way to the office. That would have been good B-roll for the episode next
All
time.
right. I'll let you know when I have it.
Yeah. Well, cool. The other things too. I mean, we've talked about a lot of things over the years. Obviously, we saw we were wearing the same watch, or a variation of the same watch. You have the PRX. I've got this one. You didn't wear yours today, but you forgot. But that's
Yep.
all right.
I forgot. I knew we would probably talk about one just because we both are into them. And here I am at my office. Forgot to put it on. Forgot my wedding ring. So look out, ladies.
Yeah. Yeah. Is that a class fight? Do we want to get you in the class fights here before you get that ring back on, or?
All right. Yeah, my wife would definitely
Yeah.
allow me,
Yeah, she'd probably pay for it, right? She'd be like,
Yeah,
"Yeah, here's yeah, I'll pay for the listing."
yeah. But no, yeah, there's so many, and look, not begrudging anyone that wears an Apple Watch or anything like that, but there's something fun about the mechanical, you know, automatic or winding watch. It's an art form that is kept on for centuries, and there's something about honoring that I like.
Yeah. Well, we talked about that a couple of weeks ago. It was like, the reason that I went to a regular watch was I was at a wedding, and they were like, no Apple Watches, and I'm like,
Which is a weird thing, by the way. I mean,
it was weird. Yeah.
again, no, everybody to each
It
their
was a
own,
crazy wedding for
but
sure.
it's like, really, I can't. Okay.
Yeah, there's like no Apple Watches, and then I've got this beautiful olive Italian skin, so I had this this big, watch thing. So I'm like, oh well, if, I'm standing there at the altar here. I was in this wedding, all you're gonna see is my, the one pale part of my skin because I was wearing my Apple Watch every day. So I went and there was like I don't know, a jeweler in the same part of where we were staying, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna get like a I'll use the word entry level watch, right? I didn't want to go and buy, spend thousands of dollars on a watch. And I'm like, okay, cool. I like this one. And then ever since that happened, now now I got into all the YouTube, watch guys and things like that. So but I think that one of the unintended benefits was when you're wearing a mechanical watch, or just a watch that isn't an Apple Watch in general, you're not as connected, right? And it's easy in sales roles, right, to feel like, gosh, there are times when I've got this on and I'm like, if I had my Apple Watch on, I wouldn't have missed that call. Not that I miss a lot of calls, but it's like you're always connected with her, and you find yourself, you're like, okay, I'm playing with my kids outside and I'm looking, reading an email, instead of paying attention, throwing the wiffle ball around or something. So I like that about quote unquote regular watches as well. So
Yeah, I have never put one on my wrist, so I couldn't tell you what it feels like. But I do know the feeling of having to stay connected all the time. And I think there's also a component of what the sales guy feels like on off the clock. There really is no off the clock, right? It's very easy when the sky's the limit and you're trying to help as many customers as possible to just say, yeah, I'm available whenever. So yeah, just having another way to do it, even after you put your phone in your office and walk out and go spend time with your family, like, yeah, I could totally see,
yeah,
that becoming a problem for me too. But you
yeah,
picked a good one, Josh. I mean,
yeah. I
that
like it. Yeah.
it's an excellent watch. I
Just
think
a
it has
gentleman.
the same Powermatic 80
Yep.
movement that mine does. So you get 80 hours. And, one of my favorite things to do is at the beginning of every day, I don't have a huge watch collection, but I
Hmm.
have a few, and I don't like to wear the same one every day, but sometimes I'll go a couple weeks, wearing the same one. But um, if you haven't worn one in a while and you gotta wind it up, set the day, set the date, um, set the time. It's kind of that little that little session that you have as you start your day is kind of nice.
Yeah.
And yeah, but if you're wearing that all the time with 80 hours, you may not have to do that very often.
Yeah, I haven't had to do it too often yet. There are times when I'm like for the weekend, for example, or whatever. If we're just hanging out at home, I'm not putting it on. But yeah, there've been a handful of times where I've had to do that, and part of it's like you want to make sure you have the right date on it, right? It's like yeah, it's easy enough to get it to the right time, but then it's like oh gosh, there was one time I was like 4 days behind, and I'm like oh man, you're like, how do I do this?
I,
Is there a faster way?
yeah,
Is there a button I can press? Right? The
yeah,
beauty of
right.
it, there isn't, right? So you
Yeah,
have to
just
sit
connect
there
with
with your
Bluetooth on
thoughts
the
for the
phone,
next.
right? Yeah, no problem. No, you ever have it where you accidentally like set it to AM versus PM, and then the day will appear as
Yeah,
I don't know if it's French usually or Spanish.
yeah. I don't know. And what I noticed today is I'm a day ahead, actually. So that exact thing happened last time I did. I just noticed that it says it's the 30th, and it's the 29th or 28th or what. So maybe I'm 2 days ahead. Um,
You also got
but
the ice blue color, which I think prior to like 2022 was almost impossible to get on a TISO. Um,
oh, yeah, I love it.
almost
I mean,
impossible.
that was my. And I think I told you why I liked the ice blue one. I was at an event at the Breakers. It was another OEM event a couple years ago, and the guy sitting at the bar had, and I didn't know what a Rolex Daytona was at the time, and he had the blue Daytona on. I was like, oh, that's really cool. I like that blue color. So I didn't even realize there's like pandas and this color and that color and all these different things. And of course now I know a little bit about it, but I went into that same jeweler with my buddy who's a watch guy, and I said to him, I was like, oh, I think that's kind of like the Daytona one that I saw, and I'm like, oh, they could not be more different, right? Now that I know a little bit about it, I was like, I just like the color. I liked that blue color, and I think too, I'll say this: the PRX version that you have is kind of the uh, cooler of the two, right? I mean, trendier. You've got that sort of 70s vibe that I like about it. I'm not cool enough to wear that watch. Didn't look great on my wrist.
Me
So
either.
I've got the classic one, the Toyota Camry version of it.
No, there's no such thing. No, I think you have to be careful with the trendy stuff, right? Because trends tend to do two things: they go up and they go down.
Oh yeah,
But no, I just said I love the shape, I love the color, and it's got the waffle face on it, which is kind of cool too. So, but
yeah,
yeah, that's a beautiful thing about watches is there's a whole ocean of them, and all sorts of marks, all sorts of designs, and
yeah,
my favorite watch is actually one of the cheaper ones. It's a Casio Pro Trek. I absolutely love that thing. It's quartz. It's solar powered, so
yeah.
it charges its battery. Um it's you can beat the hell out of it. It's got altimeter, it's got a thermometer, it's got a compass, stopwatch, and it's been all over the world with me. And even in formal settings sometimes I choose that because I can run multiple time zones and everything. It's almost a perfect watch. And
And much cheaper than like a GMT, like a Rolex GMT, right? That you
yeah,
get like two
a
time
little
zones.
bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I think what we've got to do, and you get to go to Japan more than I do. I feel like every time there's, IREX has come around, it's, I've got a kid being born. It's
Yeah.
just happened to be the
You're
last
not
few
going to do that
days.
next year, are you? Come on.
Not that I know
You heard
of.
it here from.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We'll see, but no. Next time, or I guess the first time I go to Japan, that's one of the first things I want to do. Is I want to go try to, we'll put some pennies away and see if I can go Grand Seiko snowflake hunting because I hear you can get them a little bit cheap. And we talked a little bit about that too. Is there maybe that's a misconception that you could go over to Japan and get a Grand Seiko for cheaper than you can here in the U.S.
I I'm not saying it can't happen, but I wasn't able to find it. What you can do though is get some models that aren't available elsewhere. So especially if you're shopping for like a high-end Japanese mark like Grand Seiko, like you'll find something that is unique for sure. Um,
Yeah,
you might
it'll
have
be cool just to go into the store, right? Just look around, right? I think that's what you know certainly would be cool. How do you feel about the? I'll give you a good example on the watch front. So Seiko released a new watch not too long ago that looks exactly like the Daytona. The Daytona Panda, and it's not a mod. It's like a regular Seiko watch that So it's like if you really want the Panda Daytona and you get that Seiko, do you feel like, okay, you got something that looks like the one you want, or do you just wait until you can get the one you want? Because that's what I'm having trouble with here in the watch world. It's like, there are plenty of watches out there that I'm like, oh, that would be awesome. And then it's
yeah.
almost like the Citizens, the Seikos, the Tissot's, they all have sort of lookalikes of, maybe some of those bigger Rolexes or things like that. Where do you fall on all that?
Yeah, I think I kind of take the same approach I do with other things, which is like I like authenticity, but within the realm of what it's supposed to be. So I personally wouldn't go for something that mimics something else. Like the Casio Oak is a good example. We are talking about Casio. They've got a Royal Oak, octagonal shaped face, and I don't know. I'd rather just have the ones that the brands are known for that they do really well with. Good example from Seiko's SKX 007. I've got one of those, screw down crown, good water resistance, keeps time great, looks great. They don't make them anymore, but it did evolve into the Sports 5, and they're just excellent watches for a really, really reasonable price, as opposed to getting something that's supposed to look like something else.
So we're on the same page then. I like that because it's like, yeah, the last thing you want to do is buy something that you look at and you're like, oh, it looks like what I want. You don't want to describe that. You're like, oh, this is what I wanted, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
no, totally.
30 or 40 years from now, whatever it is, you get what you want, and that feels more special.
And there's no shame. There's absolutely no shame in it. The uh, sub $1,000 watches, great. Of course, there's respect for Audemars Piguet and you know um, Rolex and other
Oh yeah,
brands like that as well. So it's all good.
yeah. And then you start to ask yourself, you're like, why do I want a Royal Oak? You don't want a Royal, and not to be confused with Royal Oak, Michigan, but
Yeah,
why do you want a Royal Oak? It's like, oh, maybe I don't. Maybe you just want it because it's a Royal Oak and it's everywhere, right? So I'm sort of on the. I've always been the like, oh, everybody has the the black Submariner. I don't want one of those. I'll find something cool that I like, and who cares what it costs, right? So I think that's the cool thing about the watch world that I've noticed. But
yeah.
venturing into the next part of my YouTube algorithm that we also share an interest on, pizza, right? We talk a lot about pizza. You make your own pizza. I make my own pizza.
So I have to
Give me a little
admit,
bit about your.
I didn't know that pizza was such a passion for you until I think the last round of
Hmm.
shows. You started saying that you had the posts on LinkedIn like, I'm gonna go hit these places here. Where should I go to? I'm like, oh man, Josh. Okay, I'm starting to get a feel for where this guy lands on this subject, and yeah, I guess I'm interested in where you do land on the subject. I mean, pizza is a passionate thing that people have very strong feelings on.
Yeah, so I think I've said this, I don't know, maybe on the podcast, maybe not, but I've got this whole spreadsheet, right? You know, 5 or 6 years ago, we started this pizza trip where we would go to New York, my brother-in-law and I, and, it's evolved to have more friends. And this year we added the U.S. Open into it in New York. So it's been cool. You go, and it started because Charlotte here had such terrible pizza. When I moved to Charlotte, I'm like, wow, the pizza's just terrible here. But now what it's evolved in, I've just started watching all these YouTube videos. I'm like, oh, I really like the New York style pizza. So yeah, I ended up with this whole spreadsheet. Gosh, there's like, I don't know, probably 100 pizza places in there now. And it's funny, we go to Chicago a lot, right? So I've been to a lot of the Chicago places, go to New York a lot, go to Michigan a lot. So, I love, was it Comos in Ferndale?
Yeah,
Great place.
yeah, yeah.
Love Freddie the Pizza Man. The first time I've ever had buddies was because I stayed near the mall, near when I was out visiting you guys.
Novi, yeah.
Yeah, Novi. They had one right in the mall next to the Dick's Sporting Goods there. So I went there. I'm like, wow, this is great. And I had a Buddy's Way or whatever with the oregano and the spices on top. I'm like, this is great. So I love Detroit pizza. That is definitely probably my number two, Detroit style. I don't love Chicago style. So like, Zach and I went to Pequod's.
What do you
And,
think?
I
Pequod,
thought it was good, but like,
great.
I'm more of and and maybe like I'm not a pizza snob. I just like good pizza. I'm not like you know how people are with wine. I'm not like that with pizza. I'm like I have the pizza. I'm like good or bad, right? Like I can't tell you why I like it, other than make okay, it's thin and crispy, or it's really good Detroit style pizza. I'm not someone who can be like, oh, it tastes like this tomato from this region of Italy. I'm just
Yeah.
like I don't know that. But I'll go to when I'm flying out, I'm like, oh, there's Freddy the Pizza Man's near the airport. So I'll go to Freddy the Pizza Man. And that place is awesome. Couldn't tell you why I like it. But it's not Detroit style. It's kind of New York style. So I love that one. And then there's a place in Vegas. In
The Cosmo, right next to the restaurant, Leo, the Jose Andres restaurant. There's
Yeah.
no markings, just a long hallway. And you
Yeah.
walk down it, they have excellent pizza.
Yes. I went there for the first time last year. And I'm like, this is awesome.
I don't know what it's called. It's just the secret pizza.
Secret pizza play or whatever. Secret pizza, I think it might be called that.
Really? No.
But what's funny is the same day I went to Bavette's with Zach, and I've got really strong opinions on the Vegas versions of other restaurants. Like I think that Bavette's in Vegas is terrible, but I'm sure Bavette's in Chicago is outstanding, right? Like I went to Bavette's in Chicago or in Vegas, and I'm thinking like, oh, we're gonna have the best steak we ever had. I'm like, it was okay. And then it's just kind of funny, right? Like the Vegas versions of restaurants that they have in New York or Chicago or wherever, I feel like aren't as good. And maybe it's just been my experience, but
yeah, I don't actually talking about the place right next to the pizza place, Leo. Name drop soup here. Melanie Winkler introduced most of us to Jose Andres and
the Melanie Winkler.
And I think that that restaurant is every bit as good as the one in Chicago, which actually I heard they closed Chicago down. So, Spanish tapas fans are going to be disappointed to hear that. But I think pizza is one of those things that one of the main things that Americans figured out how to do better than the homeland. Like, can we be honest about it? Like, we do it better.
I haven't been there yet. Certainly it's on my list to get over to Italy, but and it's different, right? They sort of fold it up, and it's the Neapolitan style, and Neapolitan's pretty low on my list of favorite kinds of pizza. Like, sure, it's still better than broccoli.
Really?
Like,
no, that low? No,
not that low. Maybe I don't know. Maybe avocado. I'm trying to think of something healthy that
What don't you like?
Yeah, I don't love Neapolitan. For what
maybe you haven't had a good one.
That's true. Maybe I haven't. I'm trying to think of where. Yeah, I haven't had any of like the famous ones. Una di Michele or whatever. The one that's from Eat, Pray, Love that now they have in New York. I mean, it's just an impossible reservation to get. I haven't had that, but.
So if Detroit style is your number two, then I take it New York style.
New York is my number one. Yeah, okay. New York, and then probably Detroit, and then New Haven. New Haven's awesome.
I was gonna say you made it to Connecticut, right? Hartford, New Haven, like they do it pretty well out there.
There's a place of parties, which is really, really good, and it's not like now. I think the Barstool and Portnoy have made sort of pizza pretty popular in New Haven, right? I mean, it's just between all of his pizza reviews and things like that, but like there's more to New Haven than like Sally's and Frank Pepe and modern pizza. Like to me, it was like when I went there, Zupardi's was my favorite, and it was really good. They made their own like homemade sausage. It was awesome too. There was another place like Frank's, and I'll never forget this because we're at Zupardi's and the Vikings were pretty good. This was 2 years ago. I'm a huge Vikings fan. And I was sort of freaking out because they were closing and it was only halftime and like it was a close game. And I'm like, all right, where are we going to watch the Vikings game here? And how can I get from this pizza place to like wherever we can watch it? And then they ended up losing. They lost to the Rams twice in the same year. But it was 2 years ago. So, but yeah, that's what I remember about that random place in Connecticut. So yeah, I mean, what I like about what we do, or at least getting to travel around. I mean, there are some parts of the work travel that suck, but what I always try to do is like I refuse to go to a chain if I'm on the road, right?
Yeah, I'm with you.
In the last 5 years, I've been pretty much all over the U.S., right? So it's like Denver has a great place called Blue Pan Pizza. So next time you're out in Denver, you got to go to Blue Pan Pizza. There's one right in right in Denver. There's another one out like in Inglewood. I mean, awesome Detroit style pizza. I think they're from Detroit.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, get
Yeah,
Adam to take you
name would
there.
check out. Blue Pan, like the buddies.
Yeah, yeah, those the Lloyd pans, right? The blue Lloyd. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a Lloyd Pan. I gotta tell you, I don't know if it's really, there's something else going on. I can't replicate it. I do one in a Lodge square cast iron
Mm,
that does a better job with the crust than the Lloyd's pan. So it could be because my house oven, my kitchen oven only goes up to 500 degrees, and I
yeah.
don't know, but I can't replicate with the Lloyd's pan.
So do you make
So
your own dough too?
yeah, I figured the conversation was headed this way. So
Yeah.
yeah, of course I do. How about you?
I believe it or not, I do not.
What?
Because yeah, I told you I'm not like a purist, but there's a dough that you can get at a place called like Ciano's, which is right down the street, and they do the New Haven style. And you go there, and they'll give you like a ball of dough for like $2, and it's better than. And I need to like start, so I've got like, you talk about spreadsheets. I've got a whole thing of like the dough that I want to make, right? But yeah, I'll do my own sauce.
Okay.
Just basically crushed tomatoes, right? And then you throw some oregano and all that good stuff in there. And I always use whole milk mozzarella. Then I'll get a little bit wild sometimes and use some different stuff. If I'm making like a specialty pizza.
Where do you find whole milk mozzarella? Like it?
So Publix has it here in the South. Now, grande mozzarella is like the creme de la creme.
Yes.
Like the holy grail of pizza, or pizza cheese. And that, talking about like different styles of pizza. So where PSA's headquarters are in northeastern Pennsylvania, they have their, Old Forge style is right down the street. And it's just great pizza, right? Because you're 2 hours from New York, you're 2 hours from Philly.
Yeah.
Just Italians everywhere.
Yeah.
American Italians everywhere, right? And you got the best Italian kind of food in the world. And that's the one thing I miss about like living there, right? I grew up there. But it's just, the sauce to me is great, but then the cheese is also great. So the grande mozzarella you can get anywhere in like northeastern PA, but you probably can't get it. I can't imagine you can get it in Michigan. The same way you probably can't get like Cooper sharp cheese for a cheesesteak that you can get in Philly.
No. I mean, if it's a regional thing, certainly. Everything that we have at major grocery stores, which I have to shop at sometimes when we're doing pizza, and it's not for entertaining, it's just for family. It's like, yeah, I'll get a part skim mozzarella. But yeah, it's so going back to it, Josh. I've seen the pictures of your pizzas. They're very good. You're doing the right things with toppings. So your fig, arugula, was it goat cheese or
Goat cheese?
Yeah,
balsamic. Yeah.
Well, my kids call that vomit pizza.
There you go. I needed a name.
Yeah, no, the reason why is because that flavor combination to the kids, like literally, not because they don't like it, literally it reminds them of that. And it almost ruined it for me, but then I just had another piece and forgot that. No, I mean, you're doing the right things. Next logical step is for you to make your own dough, and that's where the magic comes in.
Yeah. So walk me through it.
Yeah, so I got started during COVID, like so many other people, right?
Yeah.
And name drop soup. My good friend that used to work at Kawasaki, Bob Gagnon, had a Uni Coda 16, and he's like, Alex, for as much as you cook, and I do, I cook everything, but he's like, for as much as you do, I cannot believe you don't have a pizza oven. Like, you must get one. So I like anything else, I'm an engineer. I researched the hell out of it. I had spreadsheets and everything, and he again talked me off the ledge. He's like, look, like, don't get one that does everything. It doesn't have to have a door. It doesn't have to be able to burn wood. And he's like, just get a good gas oven pizza that gets hot. And when it gets hot, then you have other options. With the home oven, you are limited. Even if you can go up to 550, we're not talking 950, which is what some of the pizza ovens gets here, right? So then the whole game changes, and that's why you can't buy a store-bought dough and do it on an oven like that, because they'll burn, because there's too much water in the dough. So the only option is to make your own dough, and that's how I got into it, is because like I wasn't getting the quality pizza out of the pizza oven I wanted. So it's quite simple. You need to source good flour, double O type double O flour. You know, it has to be a real.
King Arthur flour, is that your brand
Um,
of choice?
no, actually, I go to shout out, you know, to all of our Metro Detroit fans. There's a specialty Italian store in Plymouth, uh, and I always forget the name. It starts with the C. It's not. Oh, Cantoro. I go to
Oh,
Cantoro and I get this imported Italian flour in a 20-pound bag, and
and they don't have whole milk mozzarella there?
I'm sure they do. I just never
Yeah.
look for it because the other thing I do is I don't typically use mozzarella, um, partially because I can't get good stuff easily. So, um, in Detroit, we're very fond of a type of cheese called brick cheese, Wisconsin brick cheese. So I use that quite a bit. I use fresh mozzarella or buffaletta when I can, if I'm doing that style pizza, Neapolitan pizza. And if I do use mozzarella, I use part skim and then I mix it with Munster. And
Oh, I like it.
if you haven't tried that, you got to. It's
We'll try
awesome.
it. Yeah, we'll have to try it. Pizza Friday's coming up here, so yeah.
Okay, yeah, and then you know for the sauce, it's San Marzano tomatoes that you blend with some chili, some you know if you're feeling spicy, you know a little bit of honey and
Yeah,
you know basil. Yep. So
I like it. So, what's your favorite pizza to make? Is it just the classic margarita pizza?
yeah, you know if it's in the pizza oven, I think a margarita is like a good staple where you can
Yeah.
definitely tell you know what level someone's at. But my favorite to make is a Detroit style pan pizza in the oven. And, you know, so as opposed to like a 61, 62% hydration like I do for the pizza oven, this one's a little higher. It's closer to like 68, maybe even 70. And yeah, you know, we're talking about pizza styles and Detroit, it's been under the radar for a long time, but we have some takeout places here that are better than restaurant pizza in other places for sure. And and yeah, a good, you know, maybe the reason why Pequod's, I joke around with Zach Toma all the time. The reason why Pequod's is so popular in Chicago is because it's the one Chicago pizza that tastes more like Detroit pizza.
Yeah.
People aren't gonna hate on that, but yeah, no, I love making like a good oven pan pizza. You can do it any time of year. And
Yeah,
I like sausage and onion and mushroom. That's my go-to. So
I like it. So you said something during that made me realize why I probably had to get rid of my pizza oven. So I had an Uni as well. Somebody had bought it for me during COVID, and I had like the 12 Uni 12, you know, propane powered one, right? So
mhm. Yep.
I was like, cool, I'm gonna start watching all these videos, figure out how to make it. But I never made my own dough, and I would always get that store bought dough, and I would let it sit out there for a while, you know, get to room temperature or whatever, because that's the fastest way to ruin a pizza is if you don't wait for the dough to get to room temperature.
Yeah. Yep.
Because I would just have a terrible time getting it off the peel. You know, and I'm still not great at that, to be honest with you. I probably overused flour just to make sure I could get it off the peel. But yeah, it sounds like making my own dough might solve all those problems.
It's because the dough was too wet. So if you take 500 grams of flour and
Mm-hmm.
you had 310 grams of water and you double those numbers, you get 620 out of 1,000, right? So that's 62% hydration. That's the easiest way to do it. You add 2 tablespoons of salt, and then I like to do it with as minimal yeast as possible. I mean, half of an eighth, a 16th of a teaspoon of yeast. And the other trick is, especially if you're doing an outdoor oven like that, give it 72 hours in the fridge after you form the dough balls. It makes a world of difference. But yeah, it on a uni, if you're higher than like 65, you're going to have trouble with the peel for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
So maybe give it another kick. I think the unis are great. There's a lot of brands, you know, the
Yeah.
Gosneeds and all sorts of cool stuff out there. But you have to have drier dough, and then when the dough's dry, you can give it more heat. It won't burn. More heat, faster cook, higher rise, better results. So
Well, now I've got to go out and make my own dough this weekend and let you know how it goes.
there's a book called "The Elements of Pizza" by an author called Ken Forkish. The Elements of Pizza. It's
Elements of
worth a
pizza.
read. Yeah,
Good
and
stuff.
everything he's in the book is formulated for like home oven, but you can adjust the hydration for outdoor pizza oven, and it's I I love it. So
I like it.
yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So I'll go make my own dough, and then I'll make
Now that
that.
we lost, 75% of the audience.
I don't know if we have. I think one thing I don't do is I don't pretend on LinkedIn, right? I'm not, as we all know, I'm not technical. I'm not an engineer, so I always joke like, my best, quote unquote best posts on LinkedIn have nothing to do with cycle times or palletizing or case packing or whatever. It's, hey, pizza or golf or like all these random things that like all these people care about in our industry that we don't really ever get to talk about, because usually it's on calls with customers, right? Where you're like, okay, you get on the call and you dive into the layout and whatever it is, right? But and then we get you and I and people who go to shows and stuff, we get to get to know each other. But a lot of the industry, I feel like, is just you never really get to know who you're working with if you're not going to shows.
And you're hitting on something so important, because at the end of the day, we're still people doing work with people. As much as the media is trying to get you to believe that all these jobs are going to be obsolete in the next 30 seconds. It's I mean, we've been working together in different capacities for a number of years, and when you like people that you work with, you tend to seek them out and find ways to work together. So
exactly.
no, I love it. At Automate, I did a number of posts about all the crazy stuff we were showing, and the one that got the most engagement was the one that was a picture of I think it was called Firehouse Donuts or something like that I picked up on River North, and it was just a picture of donuts. People loved it. So
yeah, exactly. That's in. And you're the donut guy. I know. Like I've been to the site, as you're always bringing donuts.
Yeah.
So you got to lean into that.
Not for me.
Yeah, I think it was we were somewhere in Ohio and we dropped off a bunch of donuts, and I was like, wow, and they were gone by the time we even left. It's just it's funny to think of how that goes. But awesome. Well, I really appreciate you joining me. We'll see each other here in the next couple of weeks, I'm sure, at one of these shows. But why don't you tell everyone here that's still listening, because they were so they wanted to know how to make their own dough. Now, how do they follow you? What is it, LinkedIn? Where do they go to see what's going on with Kawasaki and with you? Because you're going to start posting more about donuts.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, the engagement levels are higher. KawasakiRobotics.com, of course. Kawasaki Robotics on LinkedIn, and I can be found on LinkedIn under my full name, which was a mistake that I did in the beginning, but now I have to stick to it. So it's Alexandre Boffi. It's Alexandre, because that is sexier. So
yeah, it is, especially when you've got that PRX on.
All right. I'll make sure I have it for you next time. So major gaff here. Forget about the wedding ring.
Yeah, don't worry about the ring. Just put the PRX on. Yeah. Oh, awesome. Thanks, Alex. I appreciate it, and we'll have you on again for sure.
You're the best, Josh. We'll talk to you.
Thanks.